Hi everybody, welcome to my final project. Before we begin, I'd like to apologize for my fire alarm that's going off. It just started a couple days ago and I haven't got around to changing it yet. So my country that I chose to do was Norway, and then the time period was pre-classical music and pre-pop music, so we're looking about 1850s and before. Here's a picture of my great-grandparents, Soren and Anna Smith. They were the first generation born in the United States here after their parents moved over around the 1840s, and some of my grandparents from this served in the Civil War. Both sides of my family come from northern Scandinavia. It's both northern Scandinavia is mainly considered Norwegian, but also is Swedish and Finnish too, because before territory lines were drawn, they were all pretty assimilated with each other. So the two main categories of Norwegian folk music are North Germanic and Sami. The Sami music tradition mainly has music just called a yoke, which is an a cappella chant, which can also include the fadno, which is a reed pipe, and the Sami drum, which is pretty much just a leather drum that they'll hold and bat on for a little bit. We'll see it later in the video here. Some characteristics of the Sami music is some voice wobbles will happen later on, and then it also is pretty atmospheric too. So we'll take a look. Now we'll take a look at the yodeling part of it. Alright, the next music tradition is Northern Germanic, which is mainly in the southern parts of the Scandinavian area in Norway. These songs are mainly epic folk songs, which you would hear typically in a fantasy setting, like Lord of the Rings is what it reminds me of. And the track that we're looking at here will have a Jewish harp part of it in it, which sort of sounds like a boing boing sound. And there will be some singing and some obvious fiddle playing as well.
For nå I buen I barselgård I kan ikke gutt heime bliva Om mannemann sala den burka grå For dem skulle kjæring I rea på For å ha buen I barsel Og kjæring inn I barsel kom Og såg seg etter sita
All right. And then next up, we have sort of a combination that happens in both of those music styles is halling. Halling is a folk dance in rural Norway and is typically in a 6/8 time or 2/4 and is a competitive dance. Also, you can hear in here, I hear that it's sort of like the beginning of bluegrass from when people brought it over, when they moved over to the Midwest. And I hear the beginning of bluegrass when I hear it, I guess. And we'll take a look at some of it. And then later on in the piece here, I'd like to call what is proto breakdancing. And then also a little later in the piece, there's a tradition about a hat being on top of a broomstick and they need to kick it off. So that was a pretty impressive kick. Um, as for moving onwards, we're going to be looking at the Titans music culture model. My effective experience with this is that most of the music within these three models are sort of a northern atmospheric. They make you think of mountains and pine trees. And then I also think, especially the Sami music, is peaceful and sort of a lullaby nature. As for the performance part, all of these were performed within cultural clothes and had their significant instruments a part of it and have a form of spiritual value in the old tradition. They are now performed in venues, though in the past it would have been performed at any community gatherings or for spiritualism. As for the community aspect, the concert hall, it's hosted in a concert hall. There's video on YouTube that we're clearly watching, and it also somewhat reminds me of the Celtic stuff you'll see on PBS during the wintertime, so I'm sure there's probably a late night PBS skit maybe around this or something like that. And then for the memory and history, the Sami tradition, actually nothing was recorded on any written stuff before. So it's actually pretty big that this stuff is written down now and all that stuff, as the Sami people were a nomadic tribe till the early 1900s. We're in a documentary that I'll put in my sources, just like 12 minutes. Apparently the Sami people forced some cultural assimilation with when Norway and Sweden were formed back then. And so they were put in some schools, sort of like the Native Americans in North America here. As for my music taste, when comparing back to this, I like a wide variety. I grew up with classic rock. I listened to metal for most of my high school days and now. And then I also really like classic country, Americana, folk, jazz, and synthwave. So I'm pretty widely versed in some things, some musical genres. But there's one thing that I found sort of as a crossover point between these two, and that is Bathory, which is sort of a dark Viking metal band that we'll take a little listen to here and the similarities. We'll take a jump here. So yeah, Bathory is focused around Viking metal. So it's the guys who actually wrote this are from Sweden. Definitely based around the old folk ways. You could hear the Jewish harp in there actually at the very beginning. I know I didn't play too much of it, but you could hear the Jewish harp, and then guitar is also not an uncommon folk piece from the northern too. So, here are all my sources. That is the end of the slideshow, and I'd like to give a special thanks to my aunt's Facebook because I needed a quick refresher on the ancestry stuff, and thankfully she posts all that. So, have a good rest of your day, everybody. Bye.